All right, welcome to Frontline, 6 o'clock here on the East Coast. We have an update coming from the Department of Homeland Security about today's anti-ICE attack, and we're going to have the spokesman for DHS with us in just a minute. But we begin with some breaking news out of the White House, where President Trump has unveiled the Presidential Walk of Fame at the West Wing colonnade, even featuring, AutoPen as his predecessor. Also, the FBI says it found classified documents in former National Security Advisor John Bolton's office. This is the guy who found it very disturbing that President Trump held on to classified material, if you remember that. We're going to have more on this coming up. And it hasn't been a banner week for Spirit Airlines, first flying real close to Air Force One and now furloughing a third of their flight attendants. It turns out a flight to Miami really actually does cost more than $39 round trip. But first, it's not a gun problem. Let's do this. All right, what appears to be another deranged leftist shot up another Texas ICE facility that last month was also the subject of a bomb threat. Now, Chad Prather released the pictures of the anti-ICE rhetoric on the bullet, killing one illegal detainee and injuring two more, ironically enough, while also riddling the building with bullet holes, then turning the gun around on himself and shooting himself in the face. I mean, spare me the liberal talking points on where the most political violence is on the right. No, because we have now reset the clock again to 0 days without left-wing violence. And I think VP Vance said what needed to be said.
But if your political rhetoric encourages violence against our law enforcement, you can go straight to hell, and you have no place in the political conversation of the United States of America.
Yeah, Ted Cruz also firmly said this has got to stop. But sadly, and look, I'm just speaking based on track records here, it's probably not going to stop. The left has been fomenting this since Trump's first term. They've been making an entire generation, for what is now the bulk of their adult life, believe that Trump is somehow terrible. And I'm not sugarcoating this. The left is responsible for this violence.
Do you think Donald Trump is a fascist?
Yes, I do.
Fascism.
Fascist.
Racist nationalism.
Fascist dictatorship.
Rise of fascism.
Fascist dictator.
Fascism.
No one has ever been more dangerous to this country than Donald Trump, and he is a fascist to his core.
I'll say it again. Combine that narrative with jamming all these kids full of SSRIs, perpetual victimhood, and hearing stuff like this. I mean, what did Beto O'Rourke say?
What if instead of fighting back, we fight through this, we fight forward, like a boxer moving off the back foot and onto his front foot, going from defense to offense, taking this fight to every county in the state of Texas?
These people think that if they don't fight, these people who've been indoctrinated them, that they're going to, somehow go on the offense, or they're going to lose their rights.
But collectively, they are taking away Americans' rights and making life more difficult to live in this country.
They're not, but they're also being told the world's going to end too.
The world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change.
So, I mean, one could see how someone who gobbles up this narrative might say, hey, look, I got nothing to lose. Hey, Trump is Hitler. I'm going to die in 10 years anyway from climate change. So why not kill Trump's ICE agents that I'm being told are Nazis that are hunting people before they take my rights? I mean, that's what's going on in these people's heads. You and I think this is crazy because we're sane human beings, but the people who do these things are not sane, and they're still walking around being able to carry out this stuff because the same left that has made it socially unacceptable to say anything bad about anybody in their protected groups. Libs don't believe in consequences, and if someone appears crazy, you're not allowed to say anything because that person's a victim and you are the bully for simply identifying that this person might be crazy enough to shoot someone. And then the left is giving speeches about toning down the rhetoric, like Hillary did today.
We have got to stop demonizing each other.
Okay. And then she went around to demonize Republicans. They turn around and they continue to call us fascists and Nazis. Look, it's their party who's posting 8647 on their social media. It's their party that's posting stupid tweets like this, where they say, white male has reportedly open-fired immigrants at an ICE facility in Dallas, Texas. We certainly have a problem in this country, a disgusting one. First off, dude, Brian Krasenstein, you are a white male. And this was, in fact, a deranged liberal shooting at an ICE facility. And he was so bad at shooting, he accidentally and ironically only hit illegal immigrants. By the way, the leader of the left-wing thought, which he claims to be, one of the Krasenstein brothers, those guys right there, they're doing anything they can to avoid the reality of this. He did the same thing after Charlie Kirk was shot, which shows me their side hasn't learned anything. They have no issue with this type of violence because they won't even admit the source of it. The only side talking about the actual solutions is our side.
If you want to stop political violence, stop telling your supporters that everybody who disagrees with you is a Nazi. If you want to stop political violence, look in the mirror. That's the way that we stop political violence in this country, and we've got to do it.
Look, I don't know if that was the case with this guy, but it has been in the past that, ironically, the same stance from the same liberals that pass massive unconstitutional sweeping red flag laws in deep blue states, they never want to utilize any of those on anybody other than like fathers going through divorces with vindictive ex-wives and conservatives, but not on actual crazy people. Crazy people that were ideologically driven enough to use the irony of the fact that he climbed onto a roof of an immigration attorney's office, used a gun that was introduced in 1936 and issued to World War II soldiers for the primary purpose of killing Nazis. I mean, I wonder where he got that idea. With bullets, by the way, that had anti-ICE messages written on them, as you can see there. And then they saw as late as 4 hours after the shooting, some prominent Democrats still out there, even after law enforcement told us exactly what this appeared to be, that, oh, well, we don't have a narrative still. You may not, but everyone else knows exactly what the motive was. But, and I'm not trying to make light of the situation here, the fact that this guy missed and only hit illegal immigrants and then killed himself is like the craziest failure of all. I also imagine this is now a very confusing day for the left. Do they defend the shooter who reportedly voted in the 2020 Democrat primary, registered Democrat, with the socialist, communist, liberal online presence, or do they defend the illegals that were shot? Which one ranks more on the oppressed category? I mean, do they? What? Oh, no, they just defaulted to gun control.
We need better laws on guns.
Even though this 100-year-old gun motto would not have been restricted in any gun ban that has ever been proposed by any mainstream Democrat ever. When they don't want to blame the actual causes, they default to something else that they don't know anything about. This is not a game anymore. And what's it going to take for these guys to take this seriously? You have multiple attacks at the ICE facilities over the summer, one resulting in another agent getting shot, also in Texas. You had the same crazies getting arrested for attacking an ICE facility in Oregon last night. Last night, also, across the country, hundreds of these liberal politician-inspired lunatics slapping 2x4s together to sound like gunshots outside of a hotel where agents were staying in Boston. You have an elected Democrat right now who's currently charged with assaulting an ICE officer at a protest which she knowingly went to, and yet you still have high-profile Democrats encouraging this. Look, I struggle with this because I am a free speech absolutist. I also happen to think that two consenting adults should be legally able to fistfight if they want to over whatever they say. But when does it become inciting violence? Like, at what point do liberals calling ICE agents Gestapo officers not protected by free speech when they're getting shot by the party's supporters? And I think that the bigger concern is what happens when ICE agents, police officers, and federal officers decide, hey, look, I've got kids. It's not worth me rolling the dice when these people threaten me and spit in my face, and they start using lethal force more freely. How are those headlines going to read? Because that's what the left is pushing good men and women who are nervous about going to work every day who hold these roles. They're considering that. It's not their fault. Chad Prather, host of the Chad Prather Show. Sir, I'm sure you have something to say about this.
Carl, I want to come on your show one time and we can talk about something fun. That'd be cool. You remember when Donald Trump got blasted for, there was a meme, the WWE meme of him body slamming the CNN logo on the thing. They're like, if one journalist loses their life or gets hurt. All right, let me say what I have to say. America must not become a place where we settle our disagreements with bullets. What happened in Dallas today is not just a crime against people working in that facility. It's a crime against the very idea of how we resolve conflict in a free society. Now, that said, violence is not the answer to political, cultural, or personal conflict. We have people that are picking up guns in order to silence their opponents. And they are declaring that they have, when they do that, they're declaring they have no argument left, no persuasion left. They can't stand on their ideas or their ideals, no respect for the process that makes us Americans. So when the Krasenstein brothers and these other pinheads and talking heads come on there and say, well, we're just passionate about freedom or passionate about democracy, passion is not an excuse for violent rhetoric. In fact, America was built on passion, but it was channeled into debate and persuasion and the battle box and the hard work of building bridges, even when people strongly disagreed. Our founders are rolling over because they fought for the right to argue, like you said, even fist fight, duel if we have to, protest, persuade, but they never endorsed the idea that we're going to hide on rooftops and kill the people we oppose. And it's all because of the dehumanizing from babies that are in the womb, when they call them protoplasmic blobs or clumps of cells or a fetus, all the way up to dehumanizing adults that you call Nazis or fascists or bigots or homophobes or transphobes or whatever else. We've crossed a line, and when we do that, if it goes too far, we stop being a republic and we start becoming something darker that none of us should want.
Yeah, and something that the left will definitely lose, might I add.
They will regret it.
Yes. At Georgetown University, though, they're not yet in the regret mode. A poster being hung with the phrase, "Hey, fascist, catch," which was what the last shooter of Charlie Kirk had written in places. I mean, like, this is insane. These are posters being hung at a university.
Yeah. So these are guys, and of course this poster says it's sponsored by the John Brown Gun Club. Those guys are all about, direct action, confrontation, escalation. They don't believe in political persuasion or compromise and incremental reform, regardless of what they claim. And it's because their ideas are so weak that they can't defend them with words. So they have to hang posters and persuade, people to violence. That's not American. That's not liberty. It's not tradition. It's certainly not constitutional. It's literally an admission of failure, Carl. True conservatives like you and me, we believe in debate. I'll take on anybody that wants to come. In law, in order, the Constitution. I don't need posters calling for violence because my ideas stand on their own, and also they stand the test of history and time.
Yeah.
These guys glorify extremism all day long, but at the end of it, they've told the world exactly who they are. They're people that don't value the America they claim to be fighting for.
Yeah, no, it's crazy. I mean, and they always say, oh, we got to take down the rhetoric, and then they ramp it back up. Like just last night, Gavin Newsom, followed leftist protocol, explaining why he's banning ICE agents from wearing masks. Like, they just got shot. Roll this.
If some guy jumped out of an unmarked car in a van with a mask on, tried to grab me, I mean, by definition, you're going to push back. And so these are not just authoritarian tendencies. These are authoritarian actions by an authoritarian government.
Chad, these are the people, the Democrats, raided 1,600 people's homes after most of them peacefully went into the Capitol on January 6th. They identified people by their earlobes, and they destroyed their lives, sometimes from unmarked cars with unmarked things. These are ICE agents with size 800 font police on it.
Well, first of all, to Gavin Newsom's point, I'm sure there's been a lot of men who have tried to grab him in his lifetime, and he's probably liked it. Listen, you got politicians like Newsom and major media outlets and Hollywood voices that they turned this mask idea into a tool, which is a tool of safety, right? Into a symbol of tyranny, demonizing men and women that are just out there trying to do their job. And let's not forget the John Brown Club that's hanging those posters. These are the same folks who bombed an ICE facility, firebombed an ICE facility a number of years ago. That's not defense, that's terrorism.
Yeah.
We're dealing with terrorists, and it's terroristic rhetoric being fueled by guys, pinheads, greaseballs, like Gavin Newsom.
Yeah, and you have us using restraint. Chad Prather, my friend, appreciate it.
Appreciate you, buddy.
All right. Well, coming up, the clock is ticking on former FBI Director James Comey's statute of limitations. But some developments there. But first, Campus Chaos, a conservative group trying to carry on Charlie Kirk's open forum debates on college campuses, was met with rioters yesterday at a historically black college. We got those crazy details from Cam Higbie's video next. All right, well, 9 days ago, a group of young conservatives launched Fearless Debates, carrying on the campus political debates, Charlie Kirk style. Yesterday, they set up their table, Tennessee State University, an HBC, historically black college, with these signs saying DEI should be illegal and deport all illegals. Now let's talk. Seems civilized. Wanted to debate. Well, within 10 minutes, this was the scene across the table. The fearless debaters, one of them named Cam Higbie, no relation, say all we wanted to do was have civil conversations, and that's all. And all the HBC students are screaming no, which then turned into these guys being chased off campus, shouted at, chased into their car. Then once they were in their car, they attacked the car, reportedly stole some of their stuff, shouting Black Power, and blocked the exit of the campus. TSU put out a statement saying, at all times, TSU students conducted themselves in a professional and respectful manner. Their definition and mine of professional manner are drastically different if you just saw the video. Now, according to these guys, the Fearless Tour, they were attacked, their car was hit and vandalized and then threatened with weapons. I mean, party of tolerance, I guess. Joe Pags, host of the Joe Pags Show. Sir, the left says they want debate and they want all this stuff, and they actually don't.
When you say Tennessee State University, Carl, I get the impression that the state and the taxpayers are funding this organization or this institution. And when you've got to be let off of campus with police there helping you get to your car, which I guess they stopped at the car and let them vandalize it or ruin the car or whatever, there's a problem here. The governor of the state should be speaking out on high. Everybody who's in that state who pays any amount of money in taxes to go support that university should be out there shouting with the loudest megaphone. But instead, it's okay to shout down somebody on the right, somebody who's conservative, who, like you and I, every single day, these kids just want to have the conversation like Charlie Kirk did. But instead, what does the other side do? They bring up violence, and it's getting people killed. And these people were certainly at risk at TSU. This should not have happened like this.
No, absolutely not. And you're right. There's not a lot of people speaking out against, except for guys like us. Here's another gem. Yeah. Party of peace, right? Hillary Clinton joined Morning Joe this morning. Full-on fear-mongering mode about RFK and HHS. Roll this.
One of the biggest concerns is what we are doing in our own country to put our own people's health at risk. Dismantling public health, listening to literally crackpot ideas about what's happening. When I hear people like, Kennedy and others talking about, getting back to a time when we aren't vaccinating, we're drinking raw milk. Yeah, and people didn't live. Right. I mean, this is so crazy. It's so wrong-headed. It's so short-sighted, and it's going to cause deaths.
So I drink raw milk when I do drink milk. We have the highest obesity rate of almost any country out there, but despite the fact that we spend the most on healthcare, yet we are the sickest. We have the highest autism rates of anyone. Yeah, crackpot ideas are the ones that we currently have, I would say.
We shouldn't listen to Dr. McCary. We shouldn't listen to Dr. Oz or Dr. Bhattacharya. We shouldn't listen to the leader of the HHS. We should listen to Hillary freaking Clinton. Now, let me make sure I understand. Hillary Clinton wants more obesity, doesn't want to find out about autism and what causes it, doesn't want to talk about how in 2017, Tylenol itself said that we don't recommend our products for pregnant women, but she's going to be on Morning Joe talking about that the establishment now is the problem. Carl, it was just a few years ago, but remind me if I get this wrong, during the pandemic where we were lied to about everything, social distancing, masks, the shot, the VAERS system. But Hillary Clinton has a better idea, and she's on Morning Joe doing what? Fear-mongering again, which is all the left has. Carl, we're winning. That's the problem. We are winning, and the left doesn't know what to do other than to scare the bejesus out of everybody, and it's not going to work.
Yeah. I want to roll this. Joy Reid and Don Lemon got together. They're getting more views here on this show than they are actually on their own. Roll this.
Maybe the way that J.D. Vance got into Yale is because they were tired of just letting in white men from New York, from Choate, from all the elite schools, and they wanted an Appalachian white. That's how that man got into Yale, I promise you. Baby, that's also affirmative action and DEI.
Look, two black millionaires that made their money. I mean, like, she went for 30 seconds about how KJB is so smart, can't define what a woman is, but so smart. And I'm just sitting there, I'm like, these people are insufferable.
Carl, I consider you a friend, and I like you, but the fact that you sent me that and made me watch it today, that's something we're going to have to talk about. Listen, for her to sit there and say somehow DEI and affirmative action was helping a white man from America just blows my mind. And you're right. They went on talking about how smart they both were and how Ketanji Brown Jackson was the smartest person in the room. Yeah. Keep in mind, Sonia Sotomayor, somebody on her own side, had to tell Ketanji Brown Jackson, I don't think you understand the actual case we have before us, because your decision or your dissent makes no sense. Literally on her side had to say, you're not following along as we just, color in the boxes here in the Supreme Court. When I had to see those two speaking and how by the end of it, they were yelling about how the Lord was a black woman. Right, sure. I was done. At that point, I was mad at Higbie.
And also, Don Lemon's married to a white dude. But anyway, Joe Pags. There you go. My pleasure. A pleasure, my man.
Thank you. Appreciate you, brother.
All right, coming up, Kimmel returned to some of your screens with a non-apology. All that and more in our Culture Clash.
Sure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I sure could.
Now, circling back to our top story, the shooting at the Dallas ICE facility. Let's bring in Assistant Secretary for the Department of Homeland Security, Tricia McLaughlin. Tricia, this is insane to me that there were still people on the left that refused to understand what this was, which really impedes your ability to actually, solve the problem so it doesn't happen again.
Oh, you're exactly right. It was really sickening what happened at that facility down in Dallas. This monster began indiscriminately shooting at our facility. He began indiscriminately shooting at the ICE vehicle itself, and it ended up killing one detainee and severely, severely injuring 2 other of the detainees. And we are praying for them that they will be back in okay condition. But Carl, this is a direct response to the rhetoric we're seeing out of the left. Look at just this weekend, Gavin Newsom presented and introduced a law, an unconstitutional law called the No Secret Police Act. He is directly calling our law enforcement the Gestapo, the Nazis. And what did Americans do to the Nazis in World War II? We fought them and we killed them. These politicians are likening our ICE law enforcement to slave patrol. The dehumanization and the demonization has to stop, because we're already seeing a 1,000% increase in assaults against them. We saw what happened today. An law enforcement officer could have been killed and probably was very close to it. It's got to stop.
But the other thing, too, is this is not new, and it keeps going, and you keep having protests, and it's putting officers in danger. You had Oregon last night. You had Boston last night. At some point, what is going to be the use of force in order to quell some of these things that are getting pretty violent?
Carl, I think a big part of this is we have to flood the zone. We know that these are dangerous jobs, and because of these sanctuary politicians, these media smears, they're becoming increasingly dangerous jobs. So that's why we've really recruited, and that's been a big focus since we passed that big, beautiful bill under President Trump. We've recruited 151,000 applicants. Patriotic Americans are answering the call. And so we need to keep on bringing them on board so that our ICE officers have backup.
Yeah, and Trump obviously posting on Truth Today saying this violence is the result of the radical left. Democrats constantly demonizing law enforcement, calling ICE to be demolished and compare ICE officers to Nazis, continuing the violence from the radical left, terrorists in the aftermath of Charlie Kirk's assassination. It was a week ago, they were like, oh, we're kind of sorry, we're going to tone it down and all this stuff. And then here we are again. The night before, they're telling the same story.
Yeah, it's the same story over and over again. We continue to see the dehumanization of political opponents. And by the way, these DHS law enforcement, they're just enforcing the rule of law. They want to go home to their kids just like everybody else. They want to go home safely at night. If you don't like the law, then you should change it. Don't demonize law enforcement. Yeah. And if you see an officer today, ICE, CBP, federal or state, local law enforcement, thank them, because they are in more danger than we've seen probably ever.
Yeah, no, it is. I mean, they'd have to get elected into the majority to change the law. It's not looking so good for them with this rhetoric. Tricia McLaughlin, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me, Carl.
All right, so last night, Jimmy Kimmel returned to some of your screens. Two major station groups are not showing his show over, it's like 60 markets, to give like some non-apology over being suspended over comments of Charlie Kirk's assassin. Let's just remind you what he said.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it.
And last night, along with some, I don't know if they were real tears, but he didn't really apologize at all.
It was never my intention to make light of the murder of a young man, nor was it my intention to blame any specific group for the actions of what it was obviously a deeply disturbed individual. I have many friends and family members on the other side who I love and remain close to, even though we don't agree on politics at all.
He didn't blame it on what? He actually did blame it on the MAGA gang. And, look, here's the thing. You're not a news guy. You're supposed to be a relief from news. This was once known as comedy. Just go back to that. And if you forgot, you can just look back at your script, by the way, of your opening monologue that night when you said those terrible things. But whatever. Sarah Selip, founder and president of 917 Strategies. Tony Katz, host of nationally syndicated Tony Katz Today. Tony, it's on the internet. It's on TV. It's not like we couldn't hear his own words.
Yeah, so we should really take a moment to understand that what he said was not what we were discussing. He said, I didn't come on to make light of the murder of a young man, as he started to engage tears, which he's done before, which leads to the question of truly, what do you believe or not believe? But we didn't say you were making light of anything. We said that you lied about who did this because you did lie about who did this. You just played the clip. And we had people on the political left saying, I've looked at that clip many times, like it was the Zapruder film, and said, he didn't say those things. He didn't say. It was an obvious gaslighting of America. So his whole conversation is based on a premise that is faulty because no one was saying he was making light of the killing. He lied about who did it. That was the fundamental issue.
Yeah, but Sarah, the same thing. You know, we see this time and time again with people on the left who just don't want to accept responsibility for anything.
You stole my talking point, Carl. Thanks for reading my notes. But the funny thing is, what we've learned this week, especially with 107 days, is that the Democrats really do not care when it comes to Jimmy Kimmel, Hillary Clinton, Kamala Harris, and all of the other ones. They'll play the blame game all day long, never accept anything other than kudos. They will never hold themselves accountable, and they are allowed to get away with it. We need to hold their feet to the fire. And honestly, what kind of blackmail does Jimmy Kimmel have on all of these executives? Like, that has to be the thing.
Yeah, no, it does. But also, but this is just another point of how ridiculous they are, Tony. Ben Affleck's daughter, the Capital One credit card daughter's wife or whatever, gave this speech to the UN calling for ongoing pandemic mask restrictions. Roll this.
I am terrified for the children who do not or soon will not know a world without debilitating pain and exhaustion, who cannot trust their bodies to play, explore, and imagine, and who will not know the potential of their own minds unfettered by the cognitive damage from a COVID-19 infection. And I am furious on their behalf.
I mean, just hide under a rock.
Well, certainly the fear conversation, living in fear and wanting to live worried about what was going to happen to you does permeate so many people on the political left, and trying to find happiness is extremely difficult. I'm not going to say that long COVID doesn't exist. It absolutely, positively exists. The answer is not masks, which we know don't stop COVID. We're talking about something aerosolized versus the very concept of droplets. So the idea that the answer is we should return to masks is a nonsense argument. And if we're going to engage a science conversation from Violet there, that's her name, the daughter of Ben Affleck and Jennifer Garner, then you can't engage science with us while still wearing a mask thinking you're keeping yourself safe from COVID. That dog won't.
Yeah, exactly. And they dropped the mask on the floor, pick it up, put it back on their face. I'm sure that's really healthy too. Sarah, this is why the pro-Palestinian movement with all these nations saying, oh, we're going to recognize the Palestinian state is such a bad idea. According to a bunch of reports, the Palestinian Authority or whatever is now basically demanding up to £2 trillion or a little over $2 trillion in reparations now that they've recognized them as a state. It's like, how about no?
Can we just get that word out of our mouth right now? Because the second you say reparations, AOC, Jasmine Crockett, and the likes are going to come sprinting out of wherever they are just to get us. But you know what's funny? This first reminds me of a word that kind of rhymes with snoo crane. It really honestly seems like the second you acknowledge it, they start begging and begging for money. Yep. Europe is going downhill so quickly. We're not surprised, but honestly, we need to just get over this situation altogether. Trump is taking charge. Let's just wait and see.
Yeah, exactly. Tony, real quick, happened a few weeks ago, Burning Man sign. I got about 10 seconds for you here. There was a sign that said, F you, Elon, and they said free Wi-Fi, and it was powered by Starlink.
For people who create nothing, they really do have a problem with people who create something. And I'm just amazed that they were able to create that sign and spell it properly.
Yeah. Tony, Sarah, got to leave it right there. Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
All right, coming up. Will James Comey ever face charges? We got some developments for you here. Maybe next. Well, James Comey's fate is hanging in the balance. How's it feel, pal? Just 6 days left before the statute of limitations expires on him lying to Congress. On September 30th, Trump's DOJ probe into the former FBI director finally, and reportedly expected to be charged in the coming days. Well, allegations of false statements to Congress in 2020 loom over him as Trump demands swift action and brand new prosecutor scrambles to build a case. This is after he fired Eric Siebert, who apparently was slow walking the case. Now, Trump tapped Lindsay Halligan, a White House advisor and former Trump defense attorney, to take charge of this. And now, if Jim Comey walks free of charges after all the things he did and didn't do, a lot of Americans are going to really lose faith in our justice system. Attorney John Jordan and retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Tony Shaffer. Tony, you've been in the middle of all of these investigations. James Comey was at the spearhead of it. How's this make you feel?
Well, it feels good, but like you said, the clock is ticking. There's a 5-year limitation on one of the key charges I think they can get him on, sedition. And under Title 18, most of these things have to be charged by the 1st of October to make that window. So I think everything indicates by the freaking out, can I use that word on the air?
Yeah.
Over at MSNBC, that it's about to come. And over there on the left, they are, and I think, I don't know this, but I think there's a criminal referral letter that's been given to Comey and some of his conspirators. So I think it's coming.
But John, as you're an attorney, things that you and I can look at from a person's standpoint and say, yeah, this guy looks guilty as all get out, not always transferred to a guilty verdict in the courtroom.
No, and not only that, it isn't always transferred to an indictment in front of a grand jury either. So as Tony just pointed out, we have the lying to Congress charge. The statute of limitations runs out next Tuesday.
Right.
But keep in mind, he did a lot of other things. It's arguably a lot of his personal documents he leaked to Congress. So it's not just lying about it to Congress, but some of the other acts may have been criminal too, in addition to some of the suppression of information suppression and dissemination of false information during the Russia collusion thing.
Yeah, no, it's going to be interesting to see where this shakes out. Look, I don't really care for the guy. Also, FBI agents now say, Tony, that they have found classified documents during that raid on John Bolton's D.C. office. Now, this is a guy who was so upset when Trump had allegedly classified documents at Mar-a-Lago.
Well, there's two things going on here, Carl. First is the document search. I think he took with him documents from the White House that he used for his memoir, which was a real issue during the last Trump term. And of course, the Bidens dropped it. More importantly, we're going to probably come to find some of those documents were used in some of John Bolton's overseas activities. That's the real key. Was he doing something with the classified information? That becomes a much greater predicate for higher charges. So I'm looking in that direction. I think there's something more than the documents they're going to go after him on.
Yeah. John, real quick, yesterday, Secret Service dismantled this telecommunications threat near the UN. Now, authorities say it was like a hidden network that it could send like millions of text messages in seconds, and it would have been able to jam all surrounding cell phone towers, including 911 calls. I mean, this is kind of like, I'm glad they found it, but like, how did this happen?
Yeah, welcome to the 21st century and the nature of emerging threats. This particular set of devices could have done two things. First of all, suppress communications, both the 911 system and potentially Secret Service and law enforcement communications as well as enable encrypted communications between various bad guy actors had there been a coordinated attack. Very dangerous. The problem is, Carl, this is getting inexpensive and relatively easy to do, which raises the importance of intelligence gathering and the electronic warfare parts of law enforcement to keep the president as well as other parts of the government safe.
Yeah, no, it's crazy to think that these things are out there, and maybe those are the ones they wanted us to find. John Jordan, Tony Shaffer, appreciate it.
Thanks, Carl.
All right, coming up, the new White House Walk of Fame has been unveiled, and let's just say Trump is really telling it like it is. All that and more next. This is actually hilarious. The new presidential Walk of Fame has been unveiled, and look at this. Instead of showing a photo of Joe Biden, it's just an auto pen, which his picture would have been there if he was actually president. But Bob Brooks, host of American Agenda, and Caitlin Sinclair, political strategist. Bob, we've been talking about this, and Trump just did it.
I think it's hilarious, number one. Number two, it reminds us that the president of the United States, Joe Biden, was senile, and we have no idea who was running the country. So that was the president.
Well, we have an idea. We have an idea who was running the country.
Just a few. I mean, come on, guys. This is a master class in trolling. I think our president should really teach one. At first, I thought I was a meme, but just good old Donald Trump.
Yeah, Margot tweeted it out, and I was like, well, so you know it's real.
Yeah.
AI, okay? Apparently now all these people that integrating AI and doing all these fancy buzzwords, it looks like it's making us less productive. According to Harvard Business Review, all these companies have mandated to use AI tools, but the results show it's not really adding any value. MIT Media Lab found that 95% of organizations see no measurable return on their investment in these technologies. And it gets worse. A lawyer was recently fined $3,000 for filing an AI-generated brief, Bob, that had a fake case law stated.
Polishing a turd. That's what I was able to come up with here. So I looked this up. It was called work slop, all right?
Yeah.
And the low-level employees, they use AI to make all their slides and everything. And then it gets up to the managers, and they look at it and like, this is a piece of crap.
Yeah.
This doesn't do anything. This doesn't further the company at all. I'd say for anybody who wants to work hard and bust their behind here, now's the perfect time because everyone's relying on AI to do crap.
Got on in.
And in colleges, they're like kids are doing their entire term papers. They don't actually know anything. And Brown, because of the college standard being so low, Brown is now fired or laid off 48 employees and eliminating 55 other open positions because people are like, everything's backwards now, and I have everything I need on my phone. I don't need to pay $250,000.
Yeah, exactly. Well, AI, it's like an overconfident intern, right? They can't spell, they can't get work done, and you just end up redoing all of their work by lunchtime. And now Brown and laying off 48 employees, I think that speaks to a larger issue we're seeing, Carl, with parents wondering what they're paying for. And Brown just said the quiet part out loud. These parents and students were fronting the money for bureaucracy, not for better classrooms, which brings up an even larger issue of school and education, higher education even being worth it, because we have patriots in this country and Americans that have been questioning that for some time now.
But, I mean, we've seen this before. Yale has more administrators than undergrad students. And I'm sitting, this is a place, it's a 501c3. So you get tax write-off for donating to them. They grow their $50 billion whatever endowment tax-free. They have all these benefits, and yet they're basically an employment factory for libs that are teaching our kids stuff that's not useful.
Gender studies, whatever. I saw there was a post on Twitter of NYU grads and what they were studying. The most outrageous things in the world.
Taylor Swift.
Gender study, whatever, with an emphasis on the hypothesis of race and relations here. There's only two places in our country where those people can actually find jobs. Academia, Ivy League schools, particularly, and of course the United States government, which is where they need to get axed from next.
And don't forget, math is racist.
But this is my problem. That's exactly the point. For so long, we have had people, it's like, well, 3 + 3 could equal 7. if you show your work and feel that way. And I'm like, but if you work for NASA and 3 + 3 = 7, you miss the planet that you're aiming for.
Well, I think parents in this country ought to be very angry when stuff like this comes out, because they have every right to know. Are they paying for education or are they paying for red tape? And again, I think it just opens up a broader conversation here.
We're paying for an indoctrination in woke here. That's woke run amok. You just said, does 3 + 3 maybe for some people equal 7? That's crazy. That is crazy. That doesn't belong in our society.
Well, you know, the next question now is not about who got fired. It's, will tuition come down? Brown University, $93,000 a year for tuition.
For what?
Exactly. So will that tuition come down now if we're laying off administrators? And I believe it was like 4,000 administrators that attended Brown University for, what, 7,000 students? That ratio right there makes no sense. So a lot of questions.
I think they should go to Carl Higbee's University in Connecticut.
Yeah,
to learn how to like do everything, build stuff, shoot stuff, survive.
But that's the thing, like some kids in high school and college now are like, hey, I'd love to learn how to do my taxes. And they're like, how about this woke stuff? I mean, like, if I say it all the time, if there's proof that we've fallen from grace, it's that 50 years ago, your car manual used to teach you how to take apart the engine, and now they warn you not to drink the contents of the battery.
Hey, Carl's camp could teach all of that. Did you survive camp, by the way?
I'm in the process.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm going through it right now.
Yeah. Bob came up. We made him split wood for about 8 hours.
Yeah,
what men should be doing.
Yeah.
That's right. Split wood, lifted weights, shot guns, harvested my own food. It was
a real education.
That's it.
It's kind of like we were derived from men who hunted saber-toothed tigers. I think we should get back to that.
Well
All right.
said.
Caitlin, Bob, appreciate it very much. All right, before we go, the most famous lifeguards in the world might be getting a makeover and coming back next. Hey, you remember the good old days when it was like 1.1 billion people worldwide would tune in to watch this every week? These guys, Baywatch, Thunder in Paradise, all those shows, they were awesome. I mean, that's like my childhood. But like, I can't imagine that a crew that looks like this would fly in today's woke world. Instead, I imagine in this new thing where they're bringing it back, imagine some like soy boy picnic, Brooklyn, eating kale and drinking oat milk lattes, more concerned about, people pronouns than they are them actually drowning. Okay, I bet they replace like Yasmin Bleeth with BIPOC gender fluid person, Hasselhoff with like some man bun hippie rocking a cardigan with like a white dudes for Harris sticker. Look, don't put it past these people replacing the reason the show rated, which was Pam Anderson, with some trans dude twerking on a lifeguard tower. All I know is if the show isn't stacked with like star-spangled heroism, sex appeal, and awesomeness, I am so out. It was too big of my childhood, Rob. I'm sure you grew up watching this stuff.
I saw a little Baywatch.
Yeah.
I wasn't against Baywatch. I don't think that they're dumb enough to screw it up that badly. I think that the message has been sent that now is the time to revert back to that. Those nostalgic shows, they hit.
Sydney Sweeney is the message that they should take from this. Anyway, Rob, take it away.
That's exactly right. Carl, good to see you. Thanks so much.
He loves the Constitution. He fights for what's right. He hates the bad guys. He's a freedom warrior. He's your freedom warrior. Watch Carl Higbie every weekday on Newsmax.